just a quick, just going to tell some stories, maybe around for 15, 20 minutes or so, stories of how, I can tell the story of how I got into the health message and my conversion experience. Also about Uchee Pines and some of the lifestyle centers that I've been to, and just the miracles that I've seen. You've heard some already, and I can tell you some more, some wonderful miracles. Well, for me, I was a medical student. It was cardiology or bust for me. I didn't want anything else. I thought cardiology was the tip top of medicine. So went to medical school, went through clerkship. In my clerkship years, this is the latter 2 years of medical school, and I was shadowing a lot of cardiologists, and they would say, if it was up to me, I would never had gone to medical school in the first place. And I thought, what in the world? How can you say that to me, who's a budding physician? And I would hear the different stories about, if it was up to me, I'm never going to let my children, or I would never let my children go into medicine. So I saw why, because you literally have your hands tied. And no matter how much money you're making, it's like you're stuck doing exactly what the hospitals want to do and the powers that be want you to do. You have to, dot your I's, cross your T's, so you're not sued or you're not held liable for a lot of things. So it was very restrictive for me, and I thought, this is not what I signed up for. So I was very depressed at the time. And before this, I think I told you about my Daniel fast experience before medical school. I lost 30 pounds and 25 pounds in 21 days. And at this time, I was 210, 215 pounds. And I was depressed, and I was like, I need to find God again. So I went back to my Daniel fast, and I started reading my Bible again. Before medical school, I read it from Genesis to Revelation, and I said, oh, this is a good book. I read it again another day, another time. But I never found God, my first experience through the Bible. And it was December 2015, I started my Daniel fast. And it was funny because God was calling me into the health message before he called me into the church. I remembered, so this was my favorite, don't judge me, this was my favorite meal after I passed an exam. And I passed all my exams. So after I passed my exam, I would have my KFC, like 5-piece chicken with, don't do this at home, and 2 biscuits and fries and extra large soda. Please do not do this at home. So every exam I would do this, I would do that just as a celebration. And in clerkship you had the same thing, so I would do the same thing. And then I remember 2015 I would have my 5-piece chicken. It could be Popeyes or KFC, but I started tasting blood in my mouth. Every time I ate chicken, I had blood in my mouth, and I thought, what is this? Maybe it's this KFC. I'll go to another KFC. Went to the other KFC, same thing, blood in my mouth. I thought, what? I said, maybe it's the KFC. I'll go to Popeyes. Same thing, blood in my mouth. And I thought, there's something wrong. So I stopped eating, it was December 2015, I stopped eating meat altogether. I was still eating fish every now and again. But I remembered it was Christmas Day, it was the last time I ate any meat. And by this time I was still reading the Bible, and I was trying to get closer to God. And this was December. By March I had lost 30 pounds. And I was still eating fish, but at the January I remembered I was at a church. I was going to a Sunday church, non-denominational church, and I actually got baptized in that church June 2016. June 5th, 2016. I remember because June 12th, 2016, I graduated from medical school. So at the end of the day, I was studying with this church, But also in March of 2016, I started studying with my friend, my barber at the time. I didn't know he was Seventh-day Adventist. And I asked him one question. I asked him, how did Cain get his wife? And he said, oh, it seems like you're studying the Bible. He says, come to my house on Saturday and I'll explain some things to you about the Bible. So I went to his house on Saturday, Sabbath, and he gave me a Daniel 2 study. This was in March of 2016. And it was almost like the Bible opened up for me. It was like that was the key to unlock the Bible for me. I started seeing how things were interconnected from Genesis to Revelation, from Ezekiel to Leviticus. I thought, wow, I want to learn more. As I kept learning more, but I kept going to the Sunday church. And he gave me a few studies on Daniel and Revelation. He says, at this point, 95% of all the pastors out there. And I thought, this guy's crazy. But I remembered, so after I graduated, June 12, 2016, in July, the pastor of the Sunday church gave the same study, a Daniel 2 study. And I thought, man, this is the most watered down study I've ever seen in my life. He was right. I know much more than this guy. So I said, why am I in this church? I should go find a Seventh-day Adventist church. And I didn't get baptized, but I was not attending regularly, but going to a Seventh-day Adventist churches and trying to find a home at Seventh-day Adventist church. And at the time, I wanted to learn more, get more acclimated to medicine, so I decided to do an MBA in healthcare management. Took the year to get MBA in healthcare management, and I started my residency in 2017. And my residency was in a town, a very rich town in New Jersey, and 5 minutes from the hospital was a Seventh-day Adventist church. So I started going there, and sporadically, and I said to myself, I would never get baptized. Never get baptized. I was already baptized in June 5th, 2016. I would never get baptized again. And one morning I woke up, and it was almost like I heard a voice saying, you're going to get baptized today. And I kept hearing this voice, and I thought, I'm not going to get baptized today. And I hadn't gone to church for about, say, a month or so. And I'm driving to the church, you're going to get baptized today, you're going to get baptized today. And I thought, no, I'm not going to get baptized today. I tried to drown it out with music and everything. I went to the church, and there are there's about 215 people. It's a very large church. And for Sabbath school, we usually have different individuals, one in the front, one in the back quadrant, one in the front quadrant, back quadrant, on both the right and left sides. So I usually sit on the left quadrant, or right quadrant in the front. But this time the person wasn't there. So I sat in the lower left quadrant, and I'm listening, and I saw the elder walk up and turn on the pool, the baptismal pool. And I thought, I couldn't hear anything this guy was saying. I just kept hearing, you're going to get baptized today, you're going to get baptized today. So I said, I just couldn't hear anything. And I walked up to the front right quadrant, and that's where I usually sit. And I still see the pool running and the elders walking up to turn it off. And someone walked up to me and said, oh, are you going to get baptized today? Because they knew. I said, no, I'm adamant. I'm not going to get baptized. And I said, oh, we'll see. And I sat down. I'm there, and I couldn't hear anything. My heart's racing like 1,000 miles per hour. I couldn't hear it. Even the music, I couldn't hear it. And lo and behold, this guy walks out in a baptismal gown. The pastor walks out in his baptismal gown. And I thought, oh, he's getting baptized today. I'm off the hook. So he says his vows, and he goes into the pool. He gets baptized. And I tell the story like this. The pastor had the nerve to say, if there's anyone in the audience who the Holy Spirit is pricking to get baptized today, come on up. And I thought, I'm not doing that. But afterwards I felt like I was Peter. Lord, I'll do anything for you. But I didn't do exactly what he told me to do. And the interest coordinator called me and says, oh, Marvin, we didn't see you at church for a while, and Did you know the person that got baptized was my brother? I said, oh, okay. I told the story. I said, I felt so bad that I didn't get baptized. And she said, well, there's a baptism in 2 weeks. So July 28th, 2018, I was baptized. It turns out the August, that was the last time I was in my medical residency as well. And then the September, I learned about the health message. And backtrack a little bit, I had given up fish in 2016. I gave up cheese in 2000. That was the hardest thing to do in 2017. But then I started learning more about the health message, and I thought, wow, I want to learn more. And this took me to Uchee Pines, essentially. And they initially wanted me to do research, but they had me working at Country Life in the kitchen. So I was the sharpest knife in the kitchen, essentially. At least I thought. But God was just humbling me, teaching me a lot of things about nutrition and about making healthy foods. And for 3 years, I was there learning these things. And just learning a lot about the health message that way. And sharing with others as well. That being said, I was at Uchee Pines for 3 years. 3.5 years before I left and went to Northeast to do ministry there. I'm still there working with them, but more so traveling mostly. I've also traveled to different places, different ministries like Living Springs. Has ever heard of Living Springs? Yeah, Living Springs is another lifestyle center in Alabama. Barbara O'Neill usually goes there. When she's not able to travel there, I'm usually there to help out. There's also Wildwood. Who's ever heard of Wildwood? Wildwood is in Georgia, is Georgia-Tennessee border. There's also Eden's Valley. Eden's Valley is closer to you. It's in Colorado. Weimar Institute is closer to you as well. It's in California. What state? What city? Huh? Yeah, I forget what city. Yeah. There's also Eden's Lifestyle. That's in upstate New York. There's also there's one being built in Maine. It's called Eden Lifestyle Sanctuary. There are others. There are Heartland, is Meat Ministry as well, Dr. Jackson. There's also Centurion Ministry, that's in Tennessee as well. Those two are in Tennessee. There are others. Those are the ones I'm more familiar with. There are others overseas as well. But it's a work that needs to grow. There's more. We're always lacking people, resources and people especially. But what I've found is that this work is very rewarding. I can give you I gave you some stories before about cancer. Another one with cancer. This pastor, Adventist pastor, and he was diagnosed with I think stage 2 kidney cancer. Very deadly cancer. I think clear cell carcinoma of the kidney. Very deadly. And he says, God, why? He's like, God, I've been doing your work. Why? And he just gave up. He says, no, I'm going to die. No, no, God has to answer me. And God answered him. He says, go to Uchee Pines. And he came to Uchee Pines. I was his physician. And he's like, I don't know. Why did God give me this? I don't know. And I didn't want to do chemo. I didn't want to do all these things. And they're saying chemo is the only remedy. And God told me to come here. And he spent, normally at Uchee Pines, you spend 17 days of having natural herbal therapy and hydrotherapy and all these things. But also spiritual counseling as well. And that's one thing that I've learned in this business, how important spiritual counseling is. But after 17 days, he left, and they did an MRI. His cancer has shrunk significantly. It was like almost like a stage 1, stage 0 type of tumor. So he elected to just do a surgical removal. But basically, this guy is cancer-free today. We've seen individuals with stage 4 lymphoma, B-cell lymphoma, one of the most deadly cancers out there, cured within six months. Breast cancer, lung cancer, all these things. I can't say, I will never say that there is a 100% success rate, but just like the guy who I told you about with the cancer, much of the healing, sometimes, someone said to me, sometimes death is healing. We don't think about it, but sometimes death is healing. And also helping this person in that process of healing is giving them the spiritual counseling they need at the time to help them transition is important as well. Autoimmune disorders, one of my first cases, and I was learning mostly, and this individual, she had a disease called connective tissue disorder. Who's ever heard of that one? Basically, it's a nasty disorder. Basically, it affects the GI tract. Essentially, she couldn't eat by mouth. Everything she ate, it came back up. And for 1 year, she wasn't eating, and they actually had a stomach tube and her feeding through the stomach, and she was losing weight. And she went to Mayo Clinic. She's from Bahamas. She went to Mayo Clinic, and yeah, you have connective tissue disorder. She went back to Bahamas, and they're treating her. I mean, basically keeping her alive, just feeding her through the tube. And her sister says, "Why are we here? I mean, we're wasting money, we're wasting time, you're not getting better. Why are we here? Let's go to UG Pines." So, not Adventists again, they came to UG Pines, and the first week, like I said, we usually put individuals on fast. The first week, 3-day fast, and the next week, she was eating by mouth. And I thought, wait, is that simple? And, multiple sclerosis. I've seen this gentleman, he called me, he says, "What can I do? My wife is having, for a year, she's not able to move her legs, she's in a wheelchair, he's a physician, he says, I can't take care of her, I have my people taking care of her." And I said, "Can I just send her there?" I said, "No, you have to come with her. You have to come with your wife." So he came, and he's worried about his job. Actually, he lost his job while he was there. But he learned so much more about the health message. And even, and he says, "I want to take this up. I want to take up this work." But especially, we started treating his wife, and I remembered he's telling the story, the testimony in the church. He says, this was like a week and a half after he was there. He says, "Last night, my wife kicked me." It sounds funny, right? But she wasn't able to move her foot for over a year. And she was walking very, short distances, but then she had to sit. I thought about things like this and see the healing properties and just doing simple remedies like that, But not just MS, lupus, discoid lupus. This lady, she had discoid lupus for about 20 years. She went to Wildwood before, and she was cured. She maintained the diet, but somehow one of the biggest issues with autoimmune disorders is stress. Whenever you stress, it causes a flare-up. So she came back 20 years later. She came to UG Pines, and she says, "I can't even touch my back. It's very sensitive. I can't sleep. I can't do anything. I have to stand up. I have to sit down. I can't do anything." So she was very disturbed because of discoid lupus. I mean, within, before the 17 days was gone, she was able to lay down and no pain, and she went home, basically relapsed. She went back into her normal life, essentially. Up to this day, this lady still calls me, and we talk, and we try to help each other out with the health message with her community as well. But she's still lupus free at this point. And, of course, the regular run-of-the-mill like diabetes and high blood pressure, I remember this guy. He's from Texas, and he had high blood pressure. He had diabetes. He had high cholesterol, and he was on the verge of severe or kidney failure, end stage kidney failure, and he was afraid. He says, "My father died from complications of kidney failure," and he says, "I just want to be able to get better." And physicians will say, or medical literature will say, your EGFR, the estimated glomerular filtrate rates, the filtration rate, or the effectiveness of the kidney to filter the blood, once it goes down, it will never go up. Basically, they start prepping you for dialysis once you get into your EGFRs in the stage 4 ranges. So he's like in the stage 3, teetering to stage 4 range, and he says, I don't want to get this. I don't want to get that. I don't want to die. And actually, no, he was in the stage 2. Oh, no, sorry, stage 4. He was stage 4. And he had diabetes. He was on insulin, high-dose insulin. And I said, all right, you're going to fast. And he says, fast? But what do I do with my insulin? I said, don't take your insulin. I said, are you sure? I said, don't take your insulin. Don't take anything. You're going to fast for 3 days, and we're going to see what happens afterwards, if you need an insulin or not. So he fasted for 3 days, and I said, after the 3 days, don't take your insulin. Let's take your oral hypoglycemics. He says, okay, I'll do that. He starts eating after 3 days, and his blood glucose numbers are coming down. So I said, okay, let's stop your oral hypoglycemics. He stopped them, and his glucose numbers are steady and normal. And his blood pressure is coming down as well. Cholesterol also came down as well. I remember his testimony. He said he was in the church, and he says, he raised his hand. He says, yeah, I have a testimony to tell. He says, church, I divorced my second wife today. And everyone looked around and says, what? What do you mean divorce your second wife? He says, hear me out. He says, everywhere I went, my second wife went. I went to work, my second wife was there. I went on vacation, my second wife was there. I went to the park, my second wife was there. Everywhere I went, my second wife was there. And he says, my second wife was insulin. And he says, I finally got rid of it. And he says, when I first came here and I heard them saying fast and all these things, I thought, what am I going to do? Should I trust them? Should I just go home? And he came on like 3 or actually 4 medications for high blood pressure. He was only on 2. No cholesterol medications at all. His EGFR from stage 4 to stage 2, his EGFR got better essentially. So I mean, simple things within 17 days, we're able to see this turnaround. I can go on and on. What else? There's a lady, a few weeks ago, I was at Living Springs, and this lady said, I haven't had a bowel movement in a year. A natural bowel movement. She has to do, every so often she does manual, she does manual or manipulation, or she does enemas. She's not Adventist. And she came to Living Springs, and she's like, I don't know what to do. And I came here for help. I heard about Barbara O'Neill and heard this place was good. And after 2 days, she started having a bowel movement naturally. And she's like, what did you guys do? I don't know. I've been trying for years and doing these things, and nothing's happening. And she's like she wants everything. Like, write this down for me. What should I do? When should I take it? When should I take it? She actually called me the other day, and she says, apparently I relapsed. And I said, why? This was like 3 weeks after she left. And she says, oh yeah, you know what? I restarted everything that you told me to do, and then it started again. But I don't want to depend on like the herbs and everything. And I said, well, it takes time, obviously, but continue doing what you're doing. But before she left, we had a conversation, and she said, my father was a Seventh-day Adventist. And I never really looked into it. But I have to start looking into Seventh-day Adventism. And it was just amazing. Like these stories, it's not just like the physical uh, healing. It's also the spiritual transformation you can see people going through. You know, it's. I mean, I've seen the same cohort at Living Springs. This guy, joking, didn't think everything was funny. He thought everything was funny, and I didn't think he was taking anything in. And I remember the last day I gave a presentation on the butterfly effect. And the butterfly effect, I talk about, God. If you know about the butterfly effect was this guy called Edward, I forget his name, but he was a mathematician. And he said basically, if a butterfly flaps its wings in Kansas, then in Alabama it can start a tornado. Basically, one thing starts a chain reaction, and something happens in another time or another place. And I said, God controls time and controls everything. And you can't change the past, and you don't know the future. So right now, all you have to do is trust Him today. And I said, whatever happens in the past, give it to God. Whatever you think about the future, give it to God. And this guy just rubbing his eyes. This guy wasn't taking anything in until the last day. And it really touched and impacted him. So these are the things that I've seen. Like I said, it's not just the physical aspects, but the spiritual aspects as well. Very remarkable things I was able to see. And I think, like I said, there's more to be seen, especially in these last days. We pick up this message and we'll see even more. The leprosy story I told you, I've seen, heard, and experienced a lot of blessings from the Lord with the health message. I know that you will too as well. Yeah. If you want to learn more about the health message, also about what is done at UT Pines, you can go to utpines.org. And there's some free information there. So say, for instance, someone comes to you and says, I have diabetes, I don't know what to do. There's free information there. There are, you can go to where it says counseling sheets. Oh, yeah. So go to the counseling. They're free for everyone. Dr. Agatha Thrash wrote these counseling sheets. He used these counseling sheets to treat patients, and you can use these counseling sheets to treat patients as well. As a matter of fact, a lot of other lifestyle centers use these counseling sheets to help, and they're free. There's also Country Life, which sells herbs and supplements and things like that. You can call them and they can ship things to you if you like. There's a Country Life in Michigan as well, I believe. But I'm not sure if they sell herbs, to be honest. I haven't gotten in touch with them. But you can call them as well and get your herbs from them. They get trusted herbs and trusted things to have on a daily basis that you can use, like wheat or breads or whatever. Wildwood also has free information on their website. Meat Ministry also has free information on websites about like detox and things like that. What else? Who else? Eden's Lifestyle also has free information. And not just free information, but if you can, if the Lord so impresses you, donate to these these places. Like I said, there should be more, but in these places there's such a need. Sometimes funds, but also people as well. And the good thing about most of these places, I'm not sure about Eden's Valley, and I can't talk about for most of them, but places like Wildwood or Living Springs or UT Pines, you can go there and devote some time as well. So spend 2 weeks there, you get free food, free lodging and everything. You learn about the message, but also you learn how to, you see a lot of the benefits of how the health message benefits people, like the guests as well. So that's something that you can look into if the Lord so impresses you. Don't just donate money, but you can also donate your time as well. So I hope that was a blessing. Like I said, I had, every time I see these things, it's almost like it's brand new to me. God is so good. Even diabetes, I'm always shocked, like, wow, God, you did that for this guy. And every person is different. And that's why there's this wow factor. I had this person with type 1 diabetes, and last one I tell. And in medicine, they said you can't cure type 1 diabetes. She had gestational diabetes, then gestational diabetes turned to type 2 diabetes, and type 2 diabetes turned to type 1 diabetes. And she had frozen man syndrome. Ever heard of that? So every time she would walk, or at times she would walk, she would freeze and she cannot move and she'd be in pain. And you generally basically have to help her out until she gets energy enough, she can walk. But she was tired of that. And she lived in Massachusetts, and the cold weather bothered her. Everything, about that bothered her. And I remember she came, and I thought, wow, type 1 diabetes, what do I do with this? But simple things, honestly, the change of diet, change of scenery, but also the spiritual aspect, spiritual counseling helped her a lot. One, she was struggling with a lot of grief and guilt. And a lot of sessions where she was just pouring out and saying, this is the issue, this is a problem with the stressors that I'm having. And she overcame. And at the end of the day, she was off her insulin. She didn't need her insulin monitor kept saying she had normal insulin, or normal blood glucose. So she was essentially diabetes type 1 free. All things are possible. One more story. I remember this lady, she talking about the stressors or the things that can cause mental health issues and physical health issues. This lady, she came in, she was a great pianist, and she had a rough past, especially with a relationship that she had in the past. Won't go into details, but basically she thought, I've forgiven that person. I just want to forget about it. And every time I would bring it up, say, no, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. No, I don't want to talk about it. And I said, all right. And every time she would come there, I said, okay, just talk. You want to talk? And then talk whatever you want to talk about, you talk. And she was talking, and she says, so what do I do? And I said, okay, well, I gave her a scripture. And it's almost like the Lord, she's outpouring to me, pouring out. And I said, she asked a question. I said, Lord, what do I say? I'm like a deer stuck in headlights. I'm like, what do I say, Lord? And I said to her, something came to mind, a scripture came to mind. I said, David once said, search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. And see if there be any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. And she's like, yeah, I do that all the time. And I said, okay. And she left, and that was the last time we had a meeting. And I thought, I did nothing for this lady. She talked most of the times. She wanted nothing of anything that we were doing. And she left. And this was in maybe the beginning of the fall. So like September, October. She sent me a gift card in December. She says, that scripture you gave me, it really changed me. It really impacted me. And I thought, I did nothing. I did nothing. This lady didn't do anything that we wanted her to do. And just like I said, you really see God's power working and changing people's lives. It's not what I do. It's not what YouTube Pines does. It's not what Wildwood does. It's not what Weimar does. It's God working through individuals and working through the lifestyle centers to impact people's lives. So I pray that you are blessed by this. Much more stories to tell. Perhaps next time I can tell even more. But I could probably cut it short in righteousness. So I hope I was able to tell you more about who I am, how I got into the health message, what is done at these lifestyle centers, and also the miracles that you're able to see from these places. All right. You're welcome.